Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Sunday live stream where we talk about photography and catch up with the community. See how everybody's doing. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing fine, thank you. And good to see everyone here this morning. I just kind of picked a topic kind of randomly this morning. About I kind of want to focus on both those of you that may be new to Micro Four Thirds or relatively new to Micro Four Thirds system, and I need to I wanna sorry, I'm looking at my video and it looks a little bit dark. How is the audio and video before I get too far along into the stream? It looks it looks a little dark to me. And yeah, opposite. So there. All right. Now I'm facing you in the right direction. Right hand, left hand, right? Uh, it looks a little dark. I'm gonna brighten it just slightly if I can. All right, close enough. I've never been known for good audio and video in my streams or videos or anything. I don't know why I can never get the production right on this. But anyway, good to see everybody here. Etherman, Darko, Zoltan, Gordon, John Thomas, Plato, Ken. It's awesome. So many of you here today. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. So what got me thinking about that this morning was uh, yesterday I went out on with the photo club run by David Crooks. Excuse me. And uh, one of the members, she comes once in a while, not very often, but um, she last time I saw her, said she was thinking about getting a new camera. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I saw her. It's been about a month, and I saw her, and she bought a uh, OM5 with the 12 to 45 Pro. It's on a deal right now for like 12.99. And I had mentioned that in my last stream or just before that, that I thought the OM5 is probably one of the best everyday cameras you can get. And, it just does everything, I can't think of too much that you can't do, that you can't do on that camera. And then it got me thinking to people that might be new to Micro Four Thirds, you've decided on the system, either uh but you're very deliberate about your choice in choosing Micro Four Thirds, or maybe someone might have one and they really like it, or maybe you didn't know anything about it and the pricing and the look of the camera maybe it's a purely cosmetic choice like it was for me when I started Micro Four Thirds. It was just I just wanted something smaller and lighter, and it was kind of a neat looking camera. It was the EM10 Mark II, which it's finally started to die on me after I don't know 8 years of regular use, particularly here more recently, the last couple of years as my live streaming camera. Let's see if it's working. Still good, but it had died. Look at the difference in color, and yeah, I got to get these to match somehow. But and you can see my my thing over here. This is my OBS. Anyway, nobody cares about that. Uh, But yeah, and when I saw her with that OM5 and the 12 to 45 Pro, uh, she said, "Oh my God, I saw you on YouTube." She didn't even know, she'd been coming the last. I've seen her on and off the last couple of years. She never knew I was on YouTube, and I asked Dave not to tell people, that I'm on YouTube. Uh, you know, I was kind of joking with him, you shouldn't be name dropping, like that. But I was just kidding, of course. But I felt so good, and I had a very, I had no I have no hesitation in recommending the Micro Four Thirds systems to people getting into photography. Because we all know there's a lot of great cameras out there. at very similar price points. But I just can't think of any better camera system to get into. Uh, for just everyday photography, you're a hobbyist, enthusiast type, right? And certainly there's very high-end professional gear for people that want to use the cameras, for professionally, like in jobs and things, which I do myself with the OM1 for my architectural and even videography. It's more than enough for what I need to deliver to my clients. And and then very high-end video is very well regarded. It's the GH5, the GH7. And then on the photography side, we have the OM1 and the G9 II and OM1 Mark II for sports action wildlife, weather sealing, durability. Yeah. So Micro Four Thirds really offers everything at really reasonable price points, I think. Even the high-end stuff, uh, it's it does approach the pricing of many full frame systems or other enthusiast level cameras. But ultimately, I think you're going to be more happy or more satisfied with the Micro Four Thirds system. Because when I went out yesterday on the photo walk, I said, okay, I don't have any lens reviews I have to do. I don't have, I got a couple other reviews I have to work on, but nothing really specifically camera related like lenses. Uh, so I said, let me think about the two cameras I want to take out. And of course, I had to take out my new LX100 Mark II, right? It's still new to me. It's a great camera, great camera. And and the other camera I took out was my Fuji X-H2, which it's just been sitting on the shelf, either on this shelf or on the one behind it, uh, almost all year. And it's the same mistake I made when I bought the Fujifilm X-T30. It sat there for almost 2 or 3 years, uh, less than 2,000 clicks on the shutter. And that's a shame, right? Because it's a fine camera, but it just doesn't call me. It doesn't speak to me when I want to go out and do photography. So I really, if you're thinking about Micro Four Thirds, you're not in the system, you're thinking about getting your first camera, I can tell you I can't recommend any of the Micro Four Thirds system cameras high enough, because it'll do everything that you want to do in a very compact and affordable system. Because you can go on, particularly on the used market. Of course, that's a point of contention with me. The camera shouldn't cost that much uh, used, but you can certainly go with OM Systems and Olympus. The used cameras are still fairly reasonable. I was trying to replace my EM10 Mark II with another EM10 Mark II. So I'm looking for used EM10 Mark IIs, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You want $400 for an 8-year-old Micro Four Thirds camera? I mean, I almost paid for that new, right? Because I got the EM10 with two kit lenses, and I paid $699, and I got two lenses with it, and they want $400 for the body alone. Now, there's certainly, ones that cost less, they're a little more beat up, and there's ones that cost a little more. But on average, if I wanted to buy one right now without, bargain hunting, $400. It's ridiculous. But let me before I go into a rant about Micro Four or used camera prices, let me adjust my camera. Today I'm shooting on this. This is the EM5 Mark III. It's being wasted as a webcam because it's such a good camera. Uh, let's kind of go over the basics of the Micro Four Thirds system and the key advantages and one or two disadvantages that are definitely something you might want to consider. But the Micro Four Thirds, what we're talking about when we talk about the Micro Four Thirds system is we're talking about the lens mount and we're talking about the sensor size. And there's really only two manufacturers, Olympus and Panasonic. So the lens mount just represent what kind of lenses you can buy for the system, and then the sensor size, Micro Four Thirds represents the actual size of the sensor, which is not terribly relevant for most photography. As a hobbyist enthusiast, it's not really relevant the sensor size. However, uh, the Micro Four Thirds sensor is larger than your smartphones and compact cameras, right? For the most part, but it's smaller than, say, like the APS-C sensors, which you would find like in a Sony a6600 or Fujifilm X-T50, and certainly smaller by half, at least, than a full frame sensor. Uh, and there's advantages and disadvantages to both, right? Smaller sensors, you end up with smaller overall system in terms of the camera bodies and the lenses, and there's some photography advantages which, play particularly well to architectural and landscape photography. I think Micro Four Thirds is extremely well suited for that, in addition to some videography. But larger sensors, they do give you some advantages to, better image quality and certainly better low light performance. Meaning, if you're going to be shooting, a lot indoors at night or on the street at night, larger system cameras will give you better low light performance straight out of camera. Uh, and then you also can get, some people like what they call a shallow depth of field, where you get that blurry background. It's certainly much easier on a larger sensor camera like APS-C or full frame. I would say you really need to step up to full frame to get sort of the shallowest depth of field, short of going, even larger like medium format. But for the, for the masses, full frame will give you the shallowest depth of field, the blurriest background, for if you know what you're doing, right? It doesn't just happen on its own. You have to learn the fundamentals of photography. And once you get a good handle on building your photographic skills, this is when sensor size really becomes even more irrelevant. um, and what you start to look for, like I do, are features that the cameras offer, ergonomics, uh, the system as a whole. What does it offer, like in terms of lenses and accessories, and uh, and also a lot of people like to look at their long-term prospects of photography. They might be thinking about that, and you certainly should, right? Think about, is this something I really want to get into, or is this something I want to just try out? Or and it's very, very hard to make that determination, because we're all very excited when we go out and we start shopping for new gear and equipment to expand our passion for photography. And we might think we're going to be doing this forever. This is the next best, greatest thing ever that I'm going to add to in my life. And that's what happened to me is, uh, about 10 or 11 years ago, when I started to get into photography, I knew pretty quickly this was my calling, my passion, right? So think about your long-term outlook, and I think this is another advantage disadvantage kind of thing, depending on how you look at it. So I hear a lot of people say, Micro Four Thirds is dying. It's, the market share is shrinking. They don't know how long, Olympus or even Panasonic can survive in the Micro Four Thirds market. And I can't tell you the future of the system. I can tell you that uh, probably for the next 5 to 10 years, you will not have a problem getting, on at least on the used market, terrific cameras and lenses. There's so many out there. There was enough production that you don't have to worry. An example of a system that kind of was an excellent system that you really don't want to get into now, because it's long gone. It's dead. It's like the Samsung cameras. I forget the name of those. The Samsung came out with some excellent cameras 10 years ago, maybe longer, and it was outperforming many of the competitors from Sony and Fuji and everyone. And they just decided to get out, and that was it. So, yeah, you could probably buy one of their cameras. They're kind of overpriced, in my opinion, even on the used market. But yeah, you're not gonna be able to go long term with something like that because electronics and things just they start to get dated. It gets harder to find lenses and accessories that'll work with it. Like, if you want to buy a grip for uh, the camera down the road, right? It may be hard to find one. I'm having a hard time finding grips for the EM10 Mark II because it's an 8-year-old camera. And I recently found some leather cases for it. But yeah, grips and other accessories specifically designed for it and have multiple choices can be a problem. So long term, think about long term, what system you have a high level of confidence in. Because I don't have a high level of confidence in really any manufacturer uh, when it comes to camera systems. Because right now Nikon is kind of growing market. Canon certainly is shrinking now. If you look at the latest reports, and Sony is growing and has the biggest market share, at least in Japan. But what I'm seeing in real life, it's certainly uh, that does seem to be the trend. A lot of people are going Sony, but that doesn't mean it's going to be here in 5 to 10 years, right? As in terms of having new cameras and support and all of that. And same is true for Nikon because it wasn't that long ago. People were thinking Nikon was going to go bankrupt or stop making cameras. Uh, Canon gave a very dire outlook on its own camera sales just a couple of years ago, and Panasonic is constantly on the verge of bankruptcy as a company in general. So don't buy a camera. I would say consider it, but don't buy a camera because of the brand name, because you think it's gonna be here in 5 to 10 years. You really don't know, right? Anything can happen. But so I think when it comes to Panasonic, Olympus, really any of the major manufacturers now, Fuji, Canon, Nikon, Sony, uh, next 5 to 10 years, you're gonna have plenty of choices to stay in the system and get lenses and things, at the very least on the secondhand market, used market, if not off the shelf at your local camera store or online. Um, but yeah, so Micro Four Thirds, those are kind of the basics that I think you might want to think about uh, when you're looking at new camera systems. And like I said, when I saw her with a new OM5 and the 12 to 45 f4 Pro, which I'm kind of gassing for that lens, I really shouldn't be, but I think about that lens that's the other thing that got me excited because I know how good that lens is. That lens is so good. It's very compact in the spirit of the Micro Four Thirds system and tack sharp, very close focusing for close up photography, you know, and weather sealed. So the M5, yeah, weather sealed with that lens, just does everything for $12.99. Not too many other cameras at that price point can do that and have image stabilization, right? And the computational features that those of us in the know are amazing, right? So I encourage you to go out and start shooting with the camera. There's lots of tutorials and support here, and it's a great community in the Micro Four Thirds here on YouTube with myself, Robin Wong, uh, even uh, Peter and Maddie, who have gone to I think Fuji and Lumix, but they have a tremendous amount of content to help you with your Micro Four Thirds system. And Grant Davis with Panasonic, many others. You'll find those are just off the top of my head. Um, so yeah, I think the Micro Four Thirds system is the most versatile most affordable system out there, uh, in my opinion, and that's why I continue to stay in Micro Four Thirds. And my most recent camera purchase was a Micro Four Thirds camera, because in the LX100 Mark II, which I took out yesterday, and I'll share some pictures with you. Uh, but yeah, Marco, I was referring to the content on their channel. They have a lot of content over the years, with Micro Four Thirds, and they really have nothing bad to say about it. They just needed, I think Peter needed it for work, and this is where, when we're talking about enthusiast photographers, hobbyists, is there really a need to go super high end, right? Or to another camera system? And sometimes there is. Like if I needed higher video specs for my work, and I did about 3 or 4 years ago when the EM1 Mark III was out, I needed to step up my video game a little bit. And the EM1 Mark III was not quite cutting it for me professionally. For my personal stuff, no problem. But professionally, I did have to step up my game, and I got into the Panasonic S5 full frame system because it's kind of a deal back then. Uh, but those of you that know me know why I don't have that camera anymore. But I'm especially have no problems now because the OM1 has stepped up its video game with the 4K 60 10-bit output, and that's all I needed to get to the level of quality I needed to deliver. Certainly, people have needs even higher than that, which I think is what happened with Peter. Uh, he needed higher video specs, and the Fujifilm system seemed to offer what he needed. Maddie, I think, essentially wanted better autofocus because he was in Panasonic, and and hands down, Sony's got the best autofocus system. It's not flawless. I have a Sony. It's okay, right? It gets the job done, but so do my Olympus cameras and all-in-one. Um, there's a lot of things that make up for it, and there's just no perfect camera. So I could tell you, don't don't second guess your choice when you pick a camera. If you pick Micro Four Thirds, you're definitely not going to have any issues there in terms of support, enthusiasm, community, uh, and the camera itself has more more features than most. Generally, they're very durable and have a great selection that you can grow into. And really, there's no limits that you can put on Micro Four Thirds in terms of photography. And this is one of the problems I have, with trolls and forums and things. I read them, particularly 43 Rumors, the keyboard jockeys on there. But you find them everywhere in every forum. Uh, they it's like splitting hairs to me. The difference between, say, my Sony A7R5 and my OM1 in terms of image quality for 99.9% of the photography that I do. You're really, really splitting hairs. Um, and but to someone else, it's like night and day. They're like, there's no freaking way, I would ever buy micro, and this is people that are in the forums. They're like, why would you buy like such an inferior product compared to what else is available? And like, you guys are if you want to, and I get it because back when I was doing computers and things, 20 years ago, it's been a while. If I could boot the machine up, like if this new processor came out in a computer and I could boot up like 5 seconds faster, which, back then it took like 10 minutes to boot up a computer. Okay. If you restarted your computer, you're waiting like 5, 10 minutes. But if it was like 5 seconds faster, man, I'm like, man, you got to get this new one. It's the best thing ever. I kinda laugh at myself now when I think about it, but I really truly thought that this system, if it can boot up just 5 seconds faster over a 5 or 10-minute period, I was like, "Man, your computer is junk, mine is the best," you know? And that mentality is just carried on, right? I don't wanna minimize people that feel that way, because if that's how you feel, that's fine, you know, I just don't. I don't feel there's that big of a difference. So, that said, I'll give you an example. I just posted, and I do this on my Flickr page a lot. Uh, let's see if I can show it. Like this. This is the LX5. This is a, small sensor. It's like less less than half. It's about a quarter the size of a Micro Four Thirds, a much smaller sensor in the LX5 versus the LX100. In the LX100, technically, you're using a smaller amount of sensor than in a regular Micro Four Thirds camera. But how much difference is there really in these two pictures, right? It's not night and day. Yeah, little shallower depth of field, like I talked about earlier. But when you're just looking at a regular picture, and this is scaled to 100%. So if you zoom in, you can see more detail in the Micro Four Thirds camera versus the compact camera. And this is an old camera. I don't know when this came out, but it's old. Uh, yeah, just let that sink in. And I have these examples. If you go down here, oh, I need to add it to comparison. Okay, so if you go into my comparisons album, and we'll scroll down, let's see, E500 versus EM1 Mark III, ISO tests here. I'm sorry if this is causing anyone any issues with the scrolling. Um, here's a good example. OM1 Micro Four Thirds versus APS-C, the XH2, and a full frame A7R5. So looking at the pictures over here, you can see certainly the depth of field difference that I talked about, where you can get a blurry background with a full frame camera versus, say, smaller crop sensor type cameras. But then when you punch in and you look at the details, how much difference is there really? It's like that, it's like that analogy I gave about computers booting up 5 seconds faster, you know? Um, so this is what and again, this is that those images there. I like to take pictures of my dog. Those images are very representative of the kind of photography that I do, and really encompasses probably 99% of the photography that you would need to do, regardless of what the subject did. Taking pictures of your pets, your friends, your family, uh, doing landscapes, car, whatever your genre of photography is. There's very, 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 very little difference between all these different camera systems. So let me open this up. So I would just tell you that whatever decision you make, you're gonna, you didn't make the wrong decision, whether it's Micro Four Thirds or not. All these cameras are terrific, but for me, when I search for a camera, when I look at buying new cameras, I really like I really try to find very unique things about the camera system now, like the LX100 Mark II. Very, very unique little camera. Nothing else like it on the market. Uh, and I might do a video review on the LX100 Mark II separately and talk about that more in depth. But I bought that camera for very, very specific reasons, probably mostly gas. I can't help myself. But, if I'm going to spend 8 or $900, I have a lot of choices on the used market, right? And once we get past the gas, there were very specific reasons I chose that camera, say, versus the plethora of choices out there, which I'll get into. And it being a micro four thirds sensor had nothing to do with it, nothing at all. Uh, well, very tiny bit. Okay, so let me get into the comments section here and see if there are any questions because that's something Robin Wong's really good at in his live streams, answering questions. Uh, wow, so many people from everywhere. A lot of people here today. Wow, I had a group this large in a while. So thanks for being here, everyone. If you're new to the stream and new to Micro Four Thirds, let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the system, what my experience has been in any particular genre of photography that you might be interested in, or if not, what my opinion is at least. I'll be happy to share it with you, of course. And those of us on YouTube, right? Influencers, content creators, we're always happy to give our opinion, whether you ask for it or not sometimes, right? And then XMeta says, and XMeta is a longtime viewer here and great supporter of the channel. M43 is okay. I'm just missing some lenses like the Sigma 18 to 35, which I'm using on my Pentax. Only that Panasonic Monster 10 to 25 1.6. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So if you want super fast lenses, generally speaking, okay. Let me address this a little bit because this goes a little bit deeper. But when you look at lenses from between different systems, that's also a serious consideration, right? What is the cost, the quality, the size and weight of that lens to get something across a different system? Because when you go from mount to mount to mount, there's a lot of variables there between these systems. Generally speaking, a micro four thirds lens is going to be smaller than larger sensor cameras. Makes perfect sense, right? You don't have to create as big an image circle. Uh, you don't have to create an image as big on a micro four thirds system as you do on other systems. Um, so inherently by design, the micro four thirds system is going to be smaller. So if you make a 25 millimeter f1.8 for micro four thirds and a 25 millimeter f1.8 for a full frame system, the full frame system is going to be a little bigger. At the very least, it's going to be bigger at the mount part because the mount has to be bigger. But also optically, to get the same optical quality between the two lenses, because you can make smaller lenses, but they're not going to be as good a quality. But let's say you have equivalent optical quality between these two lenses, equivalent focal length, equivalent aperture. Full frame is just going to be bigger, right? And certainly there's more modern lens designs coming out where they're making the lenses smaller and smaller and smaller. But just rule of thumb, micro four thirds lenses are going to be smaller. Now, if you want the same field of view, meaning 25 millimeters on micro four thirds, it's not the same as 25 millimeters on full frame when you're taking a picture of something. The field of view is very different. On full frame, it's going to be very, very wide. And you're going to get much more of the scene in the frame versus micro four thirds. It's more of a standard focal length, and it's going to be a much tighter crop onto the scene. Hence, you have to buy 50 millimeter lens on a full frame system, and you would buy a 25 millimeter lens on micro four thirds to get the same field of view to capture a very, very similar image at the same distance. And that's why the larger sensor systems, the lenses get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Very quickly to get the same field of view because they have to make uh, they have to use a different focal length ultimately. So, I have a 300 millimeter f4 lens for my OM1, which gives me a certain angle of view. To get the same angle of view, you'd have to get a 600 millimeter lens on a full frame system, and they get the same amount of light per square millimeter. I don't want to get too technical, but if you want to get the same exposure, it's going to be a massive lens compared to micro four thirds. And again, it's going to be you're going to get better image quality on the full frame system ultimately when you're talking about a single shot. Doesn't mean it's going to perform better overall in terms of actually getting the shot, but and the cost and all of that. So in XMeta's case, he wants to get a similar field of view and a similar aperture, right, with micro four thirds. You can't you just it can be done, but that lens that lens he's talking about is pretty big on micro four thirds. But optically it's stellar, right? So it's going to be bigger than it already is by design. Yeah, full frame is great and all, but I just can't bear the weight. And that's what I mean is uh people 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 are constantly making the argument that the full frame bodies are about the same size now. Some are smaller than micro four thirds, and they got compact, relatively fast lenses, f2.8s, f2.5. And yeah, if you're looking at one lens and one camera combination, you can put them side by side and match them up and cherry pick lenses and camera bodies to get two cameras that are equivalent in size and weight, even in cost, maybe even cheaper than micro four thirds, but and get better image quality, right, out of the full frame system, for example. Like the A7C Mark II with a 50 millimeter f2.5 or 2.8, whatever that lens is about the same size and weight as an Olympus OM1 with a 25 millimeter f1.8. And it's like and the A7C Mark II, I think it's about the same price. So you're going to end up spending about the same money, but now you got a full frame camera about the same size and weight and cost as a micro four thirds camera. But there are huge differences between these two cameras, right? Uh, which I don't want to get into, but I would still choose the OM1 with a 25 millimeter f1.8 over the full frame system because I know down the line, if I want to get a 600 millimeter f4, it's not happening. That's like a $13,000 lens, right? If I want to get a 300 millimeter f4 for the full frame system, yeah, that brings the cost, size, and weight down to something similar as the OM1 with the same 300 millimeter f4. But ultimately, the OM system is going to give you better capability, right, to capture the image than the A7C Mark II. So, because it has a much tighter field of view, you're getting more pixels per square millimeter onto the subject, and uh, better performance in terms of tracking. The bird detect and all of it. I think is right up there, if not better than anything else out there. And I can go on and on and on and on in these comparisons, but yeah, this argument about I can put together a full frame system the same size and weight uh, as a micro four thirds system, maybe even at a much lower cost, just doesn't hold water over time when you start adding lenses to the system. Okay, so John Click is asking, I'm curious what printer you get. Is it pigment based printer worth the expense, not dye-based? I want my prints to last. Life is too short to reprint them over time. I couldn't answer that one. If I recall, uh, all the inks, whether it's dye-based or pigment-based, um, will last a lifetime if you get original ink, right? And the key to preserving your prints is getting uh, the right framing and ultraviolet museum quality glass on top of your picture so that the lighting doesn't fade it, and having the right paper and all of that. But I'm not the right person to talk to about this. Uh, so you definitely going to have to do more due diligence on that. But I don't I what I do know is that it's really the glass that you put on top of your print that needs to last, right? If it's going to be on display somewhere, right, hanging on a wall or something, you want to make sure you have UV protected glass. They look if you search for like museum framing, museum glass, that's when you're going to be. That's where you're going to find the good stuff. And doesn't have to be super expensive. They have different tiers of museum type grade glass, but that's what you need to look for. And I wouldn't worry too much about what kind of ink you use. But I've bought generic ink before, and it fades pretty quickly when it's exposed, right? If I have it folded inside of an album, I haven't found any problems with the ink fading. But when I put them up on my refrigerator and stuff, like a lot of times I like to print just small 4x6, prints and put them on my refrigerator and just it gives me a chance, not so much because they're great pictures, but to analyze them and think about what I really like about that picture. Anyhow, yeah, sorry, I can't give you a qualified answer. And let's see. I've got the OM1 Mark II with 8 to 25 f4 Pro. Excellent. I want that lens too. I just can't get over the size and weight of it. Uh 12 to 40 f2.8 Pro, excellent. 12 to 100 f4 Pro. Wow. You got some good stuff there. 40 to 150 f2.8, the 100 to 400 f5 to 6.3 plus the MC20, but recently tested XT5 with the 16 to 55 2.8. Okay. And I love the depth of field, and I tended to crop in on my photos, so thought the 40 megapixel along with the constant f2.8 on APS sensor would really work for me better than OM systems. It could be. It could be. As I said early on the stream, I took out my XH2, which has the same sensor as the XT5, with the 18 to 55, the previous version, but for all intents and purposes, it's about the same. With the constant aperture f2.8 to f4, I don't know if I think the new one is pretty much the same, just a little more range. It'll do 16 to 50, I believe, at f2.8 to f4, and people say it's a little bit sharper too. But let me see if I can find quickly, because before you jump on that, let me see. I'm looking here. I don't have any. Well, this is kind of a side by side. These are processed a bit. But I was out with the photo club yesterday, and this is the LX100, and this is the XH2, and you can see the settings here. Let's see, 1/40 of a second f4, ISO 25,000, and looks like I dialed in a +2 exposure comp because she was, I didn't want a silhouette. I wanted to be able to see her face. And on the Fujifilm, I did 1/7 of a second, f2.8, ISO 12,000. So the stop difference there between the aperture and and let's see, no flash, 18 millimeters. So these are pretty equivalent. This one is cropped in, I can tell you, just a little bit. What was my focal length here? 22. So yeah, I zoomed in. This is about a 40. This is the 50 millimeter equivalent. Over here, I'm at 8. I'm at a, what's that be? A 28. But is there really? It's like, okay, so it's front focused a little bit down here. But yeah, if I wanted to crop into 50 millimeters on the Fuji like this, there's really not that much. There's just not that much difference. In fact, I kind of like the image over here better, mostly because I nailed focus on this one and I missed focus on the Fuji. So that's not a great example, but you can see the noise levels and everything are not that much different between the two, and that's because the pixel. Let's see, do I have any side by sides here? That's the LX100. This is another XH2. This is a good example too of some issues I had. I just don't have any. Let me look. Let me look in here. These are all the pictures I took yesterday. So there's. Let me do. This is the photo. Yeah, this is the LX100. Do I have an equivalent? All right, here's an equivalent. It's not the exact same shot. So what I'll do is let me reset this one. And this one's reset. So let's just do straight out of camera raw, okay? So we'll export to disk. No resizing. I know I nailed focus on both of these. All right, so I'm going to export these. Let's use unique names. I even got picture in picture here. This is what I do for my photo editing live streams. So those should have exported pretty quickly. Oh, there's one. Okay, there's the other one. So similar focal lengths. Oops. Similar focal lengths, right? So what am I at here? I'm at 28 millimeter equivalent. Over here, I'm at about a 20. So I got a very similar focal lengths. I'm pretty much standing in the same spot. But let's zoom in. And hopefully you can see the settings here. F8 ISO 4000, F4 ISO 800. So I'm getting a similar depth of field, I believe, on both. But I would argue, this is ISO 4000, ISO 800. That's because I could use F4. But you can see definitely more noise on the Fuji. But are you really getting that much more detail when I zoom in? And remember, these are basically straight out of camera raw images. Let's see if I can frame these about the same. Where's that? What branch are we looking at? It's a little bit different angle of view. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like, again, straight out of camera on both of these. And is there um this is what I'm seeing. Whether I'm using my XH2, my Sony A7R5, my Nikon DF, whatever camera I'm using, when I go out and actually shoot side by side these two images, side by side images, and I've done this over and over and over again over the years, I'm just not seeing a humongous difference between the two cameras. Yeah, for whatever reason, the LX100 did a better job on that scene, but I could go to a different scene and XH2 might do a better job, right? Uh, like, in the one scene, definitely I missed focus on the Fuji, so it looked terrible compared to the LX100. But on these two shots, I did not miss focus. I know I nailed focus on both of those. And I'm using similar field of view. I was in aperture priority, and I had the same depth of field, all of that stuff. Because when you're doing architectural, you want that sort of deeper depth of field, which is why I like Micro Four Thirds because it's more ideal for the kind of photography I like to do. But anyway, that's just one example. Let me see. I can find one more here. This is the XH2. I thought I took one with the Fuji. Let me see if I can find it. It's going to be in here. Sorry. I'm waiting for the. This is the other problem is the files are so much bigger. My computer slows down. I don't think I have it. These are the end. Oh, here's one. All right, this one, let me reset it. Let me get rid of all of the. So let's see, there's that one. So this one and this one, is this reset? Yeah, this is reset. So let's export this one. I know I nailed focus on these two as well. 100%. Okay. We'll do one more example. So this one and this one, straight out of camera raw images. And if I process these, they're going to be virtually identical. So what do we got? F4 ISO 12800. We're at ISO 6400. Oh, I stopped down to 2.8. So now we are seeing better noise performance, obviously, because we're at half the ISO. And the LX100 tends to expose a little bit darker. Did I dial in any compensation? I dialed in a little bit of negative on that one. But if I process these, right, with the noise reduction software and all, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between these two cameras, even in the detail. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to apply a standard preset, which is optical corrections and noise reduction on that one and this one. Okay, so I got that one selected and this one. And let me bump the no, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to leave them as is. So let's look at it with just basic noise reduction and optical corrections and see how much difference there is there. Okay. So here are the two new ones, right? Basic preset optical. Now how much difference is there really between these two? It's very, very little difference. Let me back out. Let me pick something like this stove. I mean, yeah, there's more detail here than over here, and I'm zoomed in at 150%. How about in the center? So, okay, so we're looking at 16 megapixels or 17 megapixels versus 40 megapixels. Yeah, cropping in with processing, definitely much finer details here in the hay. So I think in this sense, but I'm at a much higher ISO over here. So I did lose some detail because of the ISO. All right, so I think that your argument there holds up a little bit on that example, right? But when I go shot to shot to shot, uh, ultimately I was like, the Fuji was like, I'm carrying this big. I mean, I'm carrying. This is the lens and the camera I took, right? The XT5 is about the same size, but just chop off the grip on this, and you have an XT5 basically. And uh, and that's why I didn't buy the XT5 because I was like, I'm gonna put a grip on the XT5 anyway. I might as well buy the camera that has the grip on it built in. But yeah, look at the difference in size in these two. The straps are kind of deceiving a little bit, but it's no comparison between these two, right? Uh, and this is why, and this is just why I stay with Micro Four Thirds. Is it's painful the difference in size over time in the lens systems, the cost, because the Fujis are not cheap. Their lenses and everything. If you want the quality lenses, they certainly have some great f2 lenses. The 35 f2 is excellent. Okay, I lost my chat window. But in your testing, you're probably seeing the same thing, right? You're able to crop in and you can see finer details. And I can tell you that I certainly saw finer details. Like when I took pictures of my dog, like she has very, very fine hairs under her eye. And at normal viewing, right? Like just standard viewing, you really couldn't see any difference between the two images. But when you crop in to like her eye, you can certainly see much finer hairs in under her eye than you could. So if you go back to my Flickr page where I do the comparisons and you crop in 100%, you know, on my Flickr page, you'll be able to see the difference a lot better than you're seeing it here in the stream. But it wasn't enough for me, right, to tell people that don't buy Micro Four Thirds, right? It was like there's so little. Why buy a bigger system? When Micro Four Thirds does all of that. Okay. Uh, Rob Trek, you know what? You may be the Bob Ross of M43. Get a perm. I've heard that a few times. People like to call me Bob Ross of Micro Four Thirds. And Lam said, I love that the feeling. I do tend to crop in on my photos so that the 40 megapixel along with the constant f2 aperture would. Oh, okay. I'm just showing that again. But the problem I'm having with my Fuji in terms of fine details and things is I use DxO Photolab 7. You can certainly use Capture One, which I think does a tiny bit better job on some images than others, but it's kind of a trade-off. But processing the Fuji X-T trans sensor is a little tricky sometimes too. Uh, so you know, give that some thought too. And the colors are a little bit tricky too sometimes. Sometimes, particularly with humans, people, the skin tones are a little pastelly to me. And I do correct them in post-processing, which is one other thing I wanted to show you. Uh, and this goes back to the general discussion about Micro Four Thirds. But let me reset this image here. I did a lot of work on that one. But this is the straight out of camera raw image from the XH2. And the you know, people people that are just getting started, maybe this is their first camera, whether it's the XT5, XT50, X100V, XH2, they all use the same sensor and processing image, pretty much the same autofocusing system. Uh, they're going to take a picture like this and say, meh, you know, like what, this is a terrible picture until you process it. So this is the other side. I'm not done processing this yet, but it's a little bit overexposed. But this is what I mean about if you up your skill set in photography, like really know how to get the exposure that you want in camera and use all of the proper techniques, for composition, how to hold the camera, all of that, and get good at post processing. All of these things really mitigate, the need for much more expensive systems or different systems, even if they cost the same. Ultimately, Micro Four Thirds, everything, all the advantages of Micro Four Thirds I talked about. Ultimately, it just comes down to your skill set, right? When it comes to photography. Okay, but thanks for bringing that up. Uh, Lamb. Let's see. Lots of good comments here about Micro Four Thirds. But like you, it just didn't call to me. It just reaffirmed for me how much I love OM systems and Micro Four Thirds. Yeah. So you're kind of circling back to the same position I'm in, right? Because over time, and before I got into Micro Four Thirds, I've been in every system at some point or another, right? Canon. I don't have any Canon cameras now. I'm thinking about getting one, but uh, Canon, Fuji, Nikon, and Olympus, Panasonic. I've also done full frame Lumix systems from the S5 to the S1R. And now I got to tell you though, the Lumix full frame system, the L mount, the S lenses from Lumix, that is a system. Uh, that says I miss it. I miss the S1R. I've been shopping those like crazy for the past couple of weeks. I missed one good deal. I should have got it. I'm looking at another deal right now, which is a good deal. It's coming with a 24 to 105 lens, but I don't really want that lens. But it's like 2,000 bucks for the lens and camera with like less than 2,000 clicks on it. It's like brand new camera for 2,000 bucks. I mean, that was almost a $5,000 system, what, 4 years ago? Ugh. And John Click says, if you pair M43 and DxO, I think you can compete with just about anything. The problem now is that M43 sensors cost more than full frame ones due to demand. Yeah. And that's what I mean about cost. The cost seems to be leveling out, right? It seems like you can get a full frame or APS-C camera system in every variety at about the same price as a Micro Four Thirds. And if you cherry pick a little bit, you can get a cheaper system on a larger sensor camera and get equivalent image quality. But it's about the system as a whole, right? When you're thinking long term, over time, the Micro Four Thirds system is going to be smaller and cheaper, ultimately, in my opinion. Otherwise, you have to be very, very careful. Tamron's making some excellent lenses for next to nothing. For the Sony system, for example, and other mounts as well. They had a 24 to 70 or 28 to 75, whatever it was, the f2.8 G2 lens. Awesome lens, right? For like $699 on sale last week. It's back up to $899. But even at $899, that's a killer lens for the money. And then you pair that with, let's say, a Sony A7R4 or say Sony A7 IV, brand new for like what are they going for, 2,500? For 3,300 bucks, let's say on sale everything, you can get that system for about $3,000. The OM1 Mark II with the 12 to 40 f2.8 Pro is about $2,700 on sale. It's not that much difference in price. Uh, the Sony system is going to be larger, a bigger system. And if that's all you're going to do is that one camera and one lens, I might tell you just go with the Sony, right? Because it's a little bigger, but not that much bigger and heavier. It's not that much more expensive. But the difference in image quality for the kind of photography that you would do with that camera system, it's a big difference, right? Um, because that's your typical portrait event setup where you're going to be working in low light all the time with that kind of setup. You're going to be doing portraits all the time with that kind of setup. Uh, you might even be doing landscapes with that kind of setup. So you're getting more megapixels, better low light performance, and uh, yeah, better resolution, better low light performance, and ultimately better dynamic range for landscapes, better colored bit depth. I mean, there's it's definitely a superior system if that's the only thing you're going to do is one lens, one camera, right? But again, like I said, it's a heavier system. It's going to be larger and cost a tiny bit more. But over time, when you start adding lenses and you want to add quality lenses to that system, yeah, it adds up, and it's just going to get big and heavy compared to a Micro Four Thirds system. But for professionals and things, people that need very specific things, that might be the way to go because autofocus is going to be spot on. I can tell you that. Really with both systems, but the Sony, yeah, no question, uh, for that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you, Sony NX. That's right. Yeah, the Sony NX system, man. And on a current subject, as a Pentaxian, we have heard the doom and gloom and of the system talk. I know. I mean, Pentaxians, you're probably very happy with one camera every 3 or 4 years. As long as they make some improvements. Uh, and when you look at, say, for example, the K70 and the what's the new one? They had the K70 from a few years ago, and then they had the KXP, I think, or XP. Anyway, for all intents and purposes, they were identical cameras, just one was 4 years newer, right? And, when I was watching the DP review on that, they were like, "What did they do over the K70? Really nothing, right?" But when I went to Photons to Photos or whatever that site is, that there is a slight improvement across the range in terms of dynamic range. Uh, yeah, I think it was just dynamic range I looked at. There is a small improvement, also small improvements in shadow recovery. So even though it's the same exact sensor, maybe even the same processor, they did make some very, very minor improvements in the image quality coming out of that sensor with the newer model. Not enough that I think it's worth buying, but it's not the same. It is a little better. And I need to get me a good 35 millimeter prime for my Pentax. I have a Pentax uh, that I probably haven't taken out a couple of years. Everyone seems to be buying Fuji right now. Yeah. The XT50 is really nice little camera. I mean, it's about the same size as the M5 Mark II, and it has really what Fuji is doing right is they're still making the cameras out of all metal, and I get it. The plastic cameras are really just as durable, weather sealed, all of that. More or less, it's not, but uh, the savings in weight is relatively marginal now. There is a savings in weight. So I don't know what people are driving at or what the company in terms of marketing and designing their cameras are thinking about when they made that transition from an all metal body to plastic on the EM5 Mark II to the M5 Mark III. Were they trying to target a lighter weight camera for vlogging? Because every gram makes a difference when you're vlogging. Um, were they just trying to reduce cost, or I to me it doesn't matter if the body is plastic or metal. I like metal cameras better. Just they feel better in my hand, but ultimately, it's not a deal breaker for me if a camera's made of plastic versus metal. Uh, oh, loving the EM1X. Nice. Yeah, and those things can be had for next to nothing now. It's so tempting. The gas side of me. So you think Canon stopped innovating on with their cameras and other companies overtook them? Yeah, it's Canon. I think they still work hard, but um, the problem is everybody's catching up to everybody's trying to catch up to Sony on the autofocusing. And that is the problem is, like Fuji, my God, Fuji, I've seen a lot of hate about the Fuji autofocus system lately with the firmware updates and stuff. So I haven't updated the firmware on my camera because I'm pretty happy with the autofocus. Uh, and it's working fine, and I don't care about the Relia. I don't care about the film simulations anymore. But yeah, but in terms of innovation, Olympus and OM Systems has always been kind of the leader in that, and I wish they would keep working on that, finding new ways to surprise us. I really like the Live ND feature they added in the OM1 Mark II. I think that's a really interesting feature, being able to do graduated ND in the camera. That's pretty cool. Peter tried to convince us Fuji was an upgrade. Yeah, I think in terms of video it might be, which is what he wanted. Uh, because my Fuji X-H2, it does do really good video. I use it time to time to do my content, to record video with it. So when I say it's been sitting on the shelf, for photography, it's been sitting on the shelf a lot, but I have used it for video time to time. And Darko says, off topic, how much quality difference and handling differences do you find M43 to full frame for your commercial work? No difference at all. And the reason for that is because what I deliver to my clients is a 2 megapixel image, 1920 by 1080, give or take, right? Whatever dimension. Sometimes I deliver maybe a 6 megapixel image, um, for the residential type stuff. But for the commercial stuff, I normally deliver 2 or 3 megapixel images. So it doesn't matter if it's full frame or micro four thirds in terms of ultimate image quality. The micro four thirds is actually easier to use because it has the deeper depth of field that I need for my commercial work. On the video side, I really did need a 10-bit video camera, and at the time, the EM1 Mark III didn't have that, and my clients noticed. One client noticed uh, the difference in quality. I got paid, and I didn't lose that client, but that's when I bought the Panasonic S5. I needed to up my game on the video side. And then when the OM1 came out with 10-bit video, yeah, it's still not, as good as the S5, but it was markedly better for me, because it had the 4K 60, superior image stabilization, and 10-bit video, so I could grade it just enough, uh, so that I wasn't getting noise in the shadows as much, which is where I was having a problem with the EM1 Mark III. So once I got that, for me commercially, I was not having any issues with micro four thirds. compared to my full frame system. So the S5, I ended up selling it, because I just didn't need it anymore for my work. And Andrew Hammond says, as a new Olympus user, I'm very impressed with the glass compared to the Pentax anyways. Yeah, Micro Four Thirds has some really excellent glass out there, no question. Oh, hey, Robin, how are you? I didn't realize you were in the house. How you doing? Rob, reading those comments on 43 rumor sites and online forums can cause brain cancer. I've learned to avoid them. I don't know. It's entertainment for me. I find them entertaining, sometimes educational, but it really does help me to really not be in this Micro Four Thirds bubble where uh, everything is rainbows and sunshine. I I, I want to hear people's condescending opinions, uh, and and give it some thought, because you don't want to be blinded by your own passion for the Micro Four Thirds system. So time and time again, when I go out and shoot, the times that I can do direct comparisons, like I did yesterday between the XH2 and the Lumix, and I didn't do that intentionally. I was like, let me just take the XH2. I haven't taken it out on a photo walk, and of course, I got to take the LX100 because it's new to me, right? I really like this little camera. Uh, and then while I was out there, I said, I can do these side by sides too, just for my own education, right, or curiosity. But yeah, I like to I like to even criticism that I get sometimes, because every now and then I'll see a comment about it, what a piece of crap I am, or idiot, or shill, or what a terrible photographer I am. It's okay, that's their opinion. Doesn't matter what other people's opinions are. It's how do I react to it, accept, or can I learn from it, right? So I'm always looking I'm always looking everywhere. I don't discount, or I don't discount anyone's opinion, or I don't want to take anything away from anyone else's opinion, because they're valid to them, right? Now, if somebody's just trying to be mean, that's another thing, right? But some people just have very, very harsh opinions, and that's okay. Seven, have noticed that have one of the 2.8 Trinity lenses. It's odd that DxO doesn't do them justice, but other sites that look in distortion rate very high. Yeah, they are really good. The only camera I concern myself with is this one I have in my hand: CCD sensor, small sensor, M43, APS-C, etc. If I enjoy using it, I'm happy. Yep, that's all that matters. Focus on your photography. Uh, as a way to shutter therapy, as Robin likes to say. Go out and just enjoy capturing moments in life, right? So I doubt many of these keyboard warriors exceed the limits of a good M43 system, or have the talent to push the envelope, but let's blow it up to 400%. 60 megapixels is really useful on social media as well. I know, right? Uh, every now and then you'll get a voice of reason in the forums, or let's not call it a voice of reason. Let's just call it somebody I agree with. Um, and because I feel like photography should really be about the craft itself, and the gear, just learning to use the gear and using it the best you can to its full capability is part of that journey. And worrying about megapixels and noise and dynamic range and all of these things, none of those things are going to improve your photography, just period. When I'm talking about enthusiasts and hobbyists, right? Professionals, there's certainly some critical things you need to consider in the camera system. But those are things that the average person is not going to worry about. Like if you ever watch that guy on Tin House Studios, That not if there's a guy that can replace the most interesting man in the world in terms of looks, you remember the old Oseki commercials, the most interesting man in the world? That guy on Tin Hat Studio reminds me of him. Uh, but anyway, that guy will just shut down. He used a camera for 5 DSR or something, and then he rents phase ones and stuff. If you want to know what very high end professional photography is, that guy is, you know, that guy's one of them that does that. And he did a video recently, and he said it's something like titled like "Lenses Don't Matter Anymore," because he'll buy a lens and use it for 10 years, something like that. And camera bodies and stuff. He said I could do 99% of my work with an old camera and a 24 to 1, like my old Canon 5D SR and 24 to 105L. Said it's not a great lens by any means, but he could do all of his work with that because he said lighting is the most important thing. He would spend most of his money on lighting, and it's more about the consistency of shot to shot to shot because he has to do a lot of blending. Uh, I mean, that's a whole different thing. That's got nothing to do with what we're talking about today. Um, but this is the direction a lot of these conversations get into in the forums, but not to that level. They get into, bit depth and noise and all of that. And it ultimately that's that's not what photography is about. That's gear, right? And that's fine, but that's not photography in of itself. Oh, Andrew Hanman. Okay, so you are new to the channel in the sense of great. Well, glad to have you here. Always like to see new users and in the system itself and new subscribers is always good, right? John, you'd say longtime viewer. Good to see you here. And my chat window just jumped again. It's driving me nuts. I recall Marty did comparing large prints from 1 inch to full frame from normal viewing distance. No noticeable difference. Obviously, there is, but for many users, yeah, it just doesn't matter. You, you, you can think about the delivery medium, which for most of us is just online, Instagram, Flickr, whatever, Facebook, TikTok, whatever those things are. And for most of us, it's online, and you're just not going to see any difference. And as you say in prints, at normal viewing distances, there's no difference. And Jeff says, 45,000. Yeah, thanks. I have fun with my subscriber count in the photo club because Dave is always underquoting it, right? They like yesterday, Dave was telling her this person that just bought an OM5, it says, yeah, Rob has like 40,000 subscribers. I'm like 45,000. Excuse me, 45,000. But how many are actually here in the stream? Like, looks like a little over 100, which is awesome. Uh, I gotta start making some more videos though. I don't think I made any this month. I've just been live streaming all month. Um, and Rambling Tog says OM1, EM1 Mark III, EM10 Mark III, 12 to 4825, 4152.8, MC2060 macro. The Panasonic, the 12 millimeter f2, the 45. Wow, that's quite the selection. I'd like to get the 35 to 100 Mark II. I would like to get that. There's a lot of lenses I'd like to get. And the 10 to 25 is the only lens I'm lusting after, but the full frame size is keeping me away. I dumped full frame because of the size and weight a few years ago. Yeah, just remember, there's a inverse relationship between the size of the lens and the quality of the image. So trust me, it puts me off too. Even like the 8 to 25 f4 from Olympus or OM Systems, that's the size and weight of that lens puts me off a little bit, even though I know optically it's going to be amazing. Uh, so I don't think you'll be disappointed or regret the purchase because once you see the image quality coming from that lens, I think it'll justify the cost and the size and the weight. But I don't have that lens, so I don't take my word for it. Maybe you know someone you can borrow one and try it. I can tell you that the 300 millimeter f4, anyone that ever tries that lens, they end up buying it, even if they have the 150 to 400, right? Uh, they still like that lens a lot. And Linda Marks, good to see you. A form that's different is camera theory, formerly series compacts. Oh, that's interesting. I got to write that down. I love compact cameras too. My LX5 is the best camera ever, and my XZ too. But I honestly, I like my LX5 a little better. Uh, camera. Forgot how to spell camera. Okay, I'm gonna figure. How's my EM10 holding up? Oh, still good. Good. Um, thank you for that. Rob Trek, what do you think of the Blackmagic Cinema 4K camera? I'm thinking of getting it as I shoot mainly video and it's within my budget. Uh, I can't give you any opinion. I've never looked at that camera. Sorry. If it's the Micro Four Thirds mount, I think the only thing I can tell you is that it has direct integration with their DaVinci Resolve in terms of the log, and you're going to get probably the very best image quality if you're using DaVinci Resolve from the Blackmagic 4K camera. Uh, in terms of being able to grade the images and the colors and everything, it's like 100% compatibility between the two and calibrated. It's very similar to, think about it this way, using original Epson ink in your Epson printer, right? You're going to get 100% accurate colors and you know it's kind of, I'm not articulating this well, but buying a Blackmagic Cinema camera and using DaVinci Resolve is just like buying Epson original ink and using it in an Epson original printer. It's like you'll always get very perfect, consistent results. So I think if you're using DaVinci Resolve, that workflow and that color science and consistency that you'll get between the two might be worth going that direction just for that alone. Okay. Yeah, the LX3. Something about just being so tiny but so well made. It's just amazing. And Andrew Hanman said, "What's your opinion of the Olympus 2.8 Pro lenses versus the newer, slower f4 Pro lenses? I get a smaller footprint, but is there any benefit at all?" That is the benefit. It's just a smaller footprint. And I think Jimmy Chang at Red 35 just did an awesome video on that. I kind of skimmed through it. I didn't really watch it. Um, but I think I only have one f2.8 lens. That's the 12 to 40. And I didn't see a need for any of the other f2.8 Pros. I would probably, if I wanted them, I would get the f4 Pro lenses. Like the 12 to 45 f4 Pro lens. I want that lens, even though I have the 12 to 40, because I wanted the smaller weather sealed lens, but I still want to have that awesome image quality that you get from the Pro lenses. So I think with respect to image quality, you're not going to see any difference between the two. If you need that extra stop of light, because you can't underestimate one stop if you're working in low light, it makes a big difference. Uh, you want to get the f2.8s. But if your low light photography is like less than 5% of the time, less than 10%, just get the f4 and save the weight. Because if you want shallow depth of field, between f2.8 and f4, there's very, very little difference, right? You really need to get a prime, get the 1.2s, the 1.4s from Panasonic, or even the 1.8s. That's where you're going to get the shallower depth of field for like your portrait photography. The f2.8s, they are shallow, but not enough to make a difference between f2.8 and f4, in my opinion. So if you need weather sealed lenses, I would say get the f4s, right? I wouldn't spend the extra for the f2.8s. The only reason you get the f2.8 is if you're really doing paid professional work, and that extra stop of light can make a difference in shot after shot after shot after shot. But for the average enthusiast, hobbyist, the f4 Pro weather sealed lenses will give you that consistent image quality, pin sharp, tack sharp images, very high quality, no chromatic aberrations, all of that stuff, right? And be weather sealed. That's the way to go. If you don't need weather sealing, honestly, the kit lenses are fine. Uh, I'm very happy with my 12 to 4 or 14 to 42 kit lenses, particularly the power zoom. I think it's a little sharper than actually the manual zoom, at least my copies of them, because there's a lot of sample variation. The 40 to 150 f4 to f5.6, I don't need weather sealing. That lens satisfies me perfectly well. I've used it on a couple of professional shoots or paid shoots, but I rarely need that much zoom at events and things. Usually the 12 to 40 is good enough because I like to get up close and use flash. At events and stuff, unless it's in the daytime, I did some daytime events or events that were well lit, and I was able to get away with the 40 to 150 at f4 to f5.6. But I don't do paid event work very often, just a couple of times a year. If I was doing paid event work all the time, I would get the 2.8s. But for everybody else, the f4, if you need weather sealing, the regular kit lenses if you don't need weather sealing. Because software like DxO mitigates, that one stop of difference in noise that you might get. Do you sometimes go out and shoot just for the artist mind in you? No. I'm sure I have, but I don't do it often enough. I need to get out more. If you're willing to manually focus and set aperture and give up some close focusing, there are some tiny full frame f2 rangefinder lenses that can be adapted. Yeah, there's a lot to go with on the vintage side of glass, and they can give you some very interesting effects too. I just got the 8 to 25 to replace my 7 to 14. Finally, in situations where I want to use filters, I'm not lugging around the Yeah, that's true. Marco makes a very good point about the 8 to 25 and between the 8 to 25 and the 7 to 14. That's another big difference. So the 8 to 25 has a filter thread on the front. So if you want to use filters, which is a little hard at 8 millimeters, you have to get really high quality filters uh, on the wide end. But and you have to watch out for vignetting. But for the most part, his point is this is a big point. The 7 to 14 f2.8, you have to get this big contraption on the outside to attach like these square filters in them, or they have other methods. But yeah, the 8 to 25 will give you a huge advantage in workflow for the enthusiast photographer or hobbyist. The 8 to 25 makes a lot more sense than the 7 to 14 for all the reasons I talked about before, but also because of the workflow here. It's much easier on the 8 to 25 and cheaper. My MFT system is about size, weight, and performance I need versus lugging around a big, heavy full frame system with lesser performing IBIS. To me, full frame is a niche product. Wow, that's funny. I'm laughing because I almost feel like Micro Four Thirds is becoming a niche product because of the market share, right? It's like 4 or 5%. Even combined, it's not that much between Panasonic and Olympus compared to all the other systems. But full frame really, if you think about it, should be the niche system because how many hobbyists enthusiasts really need uh, that super low light performance and shallow depth of field on a regular basis. 99% of the photography, is done during the day in good light. You want very deep depth of field. You want sharp, just most of us, that's what we're doing, right? And that's why the smartphone is taken over because the smartphone does a great job in those situations too, right? And then you can share them right away. So there's a lot of advantage to the smartphones, but I wouldn't call I'm not saying that you're not a photographer if you use a smartphone, but I feel like an enthusiast will want like a real camera and real lenses, et cetera, right? They enjoy the process of using a real camera versus using a smartphone. Yeah, absolutely. System Mature has it all. Man, he's all in. And Lynn is here. Hi, Lynn. How are you? Lynn is in our photo club. Where and how do I submit my pictures for Tuesdays? Look in the description of the video. I haven't posted it yet. I'm probably going to do it on Friday. I'm doing my shopping with Rob Trex on Tuesdays, and I moved the photo editing to Friday. So look for the photo editing stream sometime later today or tomorrow, and then there'll be a link where you can submit the images. And Craig is asking, what modern day camera do you think photographers of the 1950s like Ouija would use if they were around 2024 doing the same kind of noir type photography? Who? Uh, Depend on their budget, I guess. They'd probably want a medium format camera, right? Like one of the Fujifilm X100s. Um, would be my guess is what they would get. Otherwise, any other camera system will suit them because it's all about the lighting. You know, they they'll probably invest most of their time and money in lighting, which is how they got such amazing images even from back in the day. And the side toward the screen says, I stopped buying gear for 1 year. I'm revisiting my older cameras. The fun is back. I'm amazed how many cameras I use now. Older, but love the limitations and some of the best colors. I know, right? It's awesome. It's awesome. I love taking out my LX5. I want to take out my Pentax. Man, I haven't taken that out in a while. I still have my Nikon D80 from way back. It's crazy. And those were CCD sensors, right? The Pentax and D80. And Marco, thank you, Marco. Marco's always been such a great supporter to my channel, both here in the streams by his participation as a guest in the live streams, helping us out with our computers, because computers and computer gear is the other side of photography for the enthusiast or hobbyist, and also with random gifts or donations. Marco has been one of the best friends to the channel and to myself, and I really appreciate you being here and being such a good friend over the years. And Robert is here. Hey, Robert, thanks again for breakfast. Robert is another. He's in a local to me in the photo club here, and Robert bought me breakfast yesterday. I really appreciate that. And he's a wonderful photographer and a great person as well. And Trina says, I wonder about the build quality of the OM5. The thumb grip started peeling off in 3 months of usage. Is it a good idea to send it back to OM for replacement? They do it. From what I understand, they do replace those. Um, I haven't heard of issues specifically about the OM5, but the grip peeling off on cameras in general has been a problem. Uh, some cameras you never hear that problem. Other cameras it seems to be a problem. Like the original DM1 Mark II, people are having problems. I didn't have any problems with it. The most common problem I hear about OM systems or Olympus cameras is the thumb grip peeling off. And like my EM5 Mark III, my Pen F, both the thumb grips have been long gone. But I would send it in. They'll fix it. If it'll last the second time around, who knows? Maybe second time's a charm. But yeah, I don't know what it is. But it's important that when you send that in, they log that, right? And it might make changes in the glues that they use at the factory when they're assembling the cameras. If people are constantly having problems, they will definitely make a note, because if they're getting in, a certain percentage of cameras back for repair because of the grip peeling off, I guarantee they're going to make changes in production. Yeah, you're set. 14 to 150, 25, 30, 45, 60. Wow. 75, 300, 100, 400, 8 to 25, 12 to 40. Um, Still need to get a 300 f4, and then you can sell your 100 to 400. Pentax K70 KF. Thank you. It was the KF. That camera should be replaced years ago. They even kept a problematic aperture solenoid. Wow. I didn't hear about that. I have a K70 in my shopping cart right now, or in my watch list. Oh, by the way, bought the $16 tripod on your recommended list. Not that I needed a third one. I know I bought one too. It should be here on Tuesday. Okay. I gotta make a quick shout out because this video is sponsored by me, right? Every Tuesday, I'm gonna start doing on Tuesday Shop with Rob Trek live stream where we look for good deals. And also check my community page here on YouTube. I post deals that I find on Amazon or elsewhere, but mostly Amazon, where it's just too good to pass up. Like I bought this camera bag canvas. It looks huge on this thing. Let me switch cameras. I bought this. Well, it doesn't look any smaller this way. It's not that big. It's a medium large, but it's not large. $25. This is selling for $92 now in this same color. But I posted on my community page when this was on sale for $25, and I need another bag like I need a hole in my head. But, you know, $25, I couldn't pass it up. And it's an awesome bag. It's awesome. Uh, the tripod that's going to come in Tuesday, $16.99. It's selling right now for $59. The sale is gone. I post these on my community page, and I put them on my Amazon shopping page for deals and stuff. And these are deals. I This morning, in fact, I deleted about a dozen items out of my deal list because they're just not on sale anymore. I mean, there were camera bags and cases like 50% off, uh, that I didn't need because I don't have that particular camera, or I don't need a backpack. I don't if I used a backpack like in the past 5 years once, I would probably buy another backpack because it's like 20 bucks. $20 for a backpack. But I haven't used a backpack like in I think I've used a backpack maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years. And I bought 2 backpacks since that first one that I've never used. They're just sitting in my closet, never used them. So I just couldn't buy another backpack even though it was $20. It was tempting though. Uh, the tripod, 16.99. This canvas bag for $25. My God. I mean, uh, okay, I'm not trying to be a shill, or of course I'm trying to make a couple bucks, but I make like 3%. Okay. So like if you buy $1,000 worth of stuff, I make like 30 bucks. I mean, it's not like I'm getting rich off, sharing these deals. You know what I mean? Uh, so you gotta jump on these deals. Or if you don't have gas at all and you got control, just ignore it. Because it is if you know if you have gas though, this is the cure. Just buy stuff on sale. Mhm. I'm terrible. I'm like an enabler for gas. I hate to say it, but I can't cure my own gas, so I just embrace it and I just buy stuff when it goes on sale. Like there was a filter system, a newer three three or four filter magnetic filter ring set in the right size. I think it was 58 millimeters in this case, $25. Now it's up to $50. It was like half price. But I deleted that this morning. I deleted a lot of stuff this morning. I was like, damn, these were good deals. I kind of wish I had bought it now. I really should have bought that magnetic filter system for $25 because it came with a CPL and a 10-stop ND filter, the magnetic ring adapter, a UV filter, which I don't care about, and a lens pouch. It came with the pouch to hold all that stuff. A pouch alone is like $10. I could have bought it just for the pouch and not been too upset. Anyway, oh, you got it for $700 and it balances perfectly. Oh, the 202.8, nice lens. I can one hand shoot that thing. It's incredibly light for its size. Wow, that's awesome. That would be a heavy system for me. I'd like the 75 to 300 a lot. I took it out not too long ago. Um, and then Marco says, regarding Fuji being an upgrade for video, check out ECVAR's channel regarding the firmware progression. Yeah, that's why I haven't updated. Because my Fuji autofocus is just fine. So I haven't upgraded. I'm still on like version 1.5. I think it's up to 3 something now on the XH2 anyway. I ain't touching that firmware until somebody tells me or everybody says it's good now. Interesting discussion. Oh, hey Robbie, how are you? I'm waiting for the price of the Lumix G92 to drop to around 50. It has. Don't get the international version. All right, Robbie, it's on sale, $500 off right now. I have it set up. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, that's a good screen. Let me go to. All right, so let me put this in the description real quick. This is you guys got to bookmark this. Bookmark the site I just put in the chat section. So here's the Panasonic G92 lens deal. It says expires August 22nd, but I tried it today. So here it is, right? 1747. You have to buy a lens with it though, all right, to get this deal. But let's add this to the bag. So I'll add the cart, okay? And then no, yeah, ignore that. No thanks. All right, and then uh let's add this. This is a lens I want to get. Let's add this lens. Because you probably don't have it. Not many people, not enough people have this lens. I need to get this lens. We'll add the cart. Say no thanks here. Okay, let's go to the cart. So we're at $22.95. Proceed to checkout. Look at the final price. This is with tax delivered, $1,900. So you're paying $1,800 to get a brand new G9 Mark II and a 15 millimeter f1.7 lens, which I highly recommend to everybody get this lens. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, you take this $107 off just so you can compare. Because when you see the tax on, because everybody's tax is different, so we're at 1903.74 minus 107.76. $17.95 to get that lens and that camera combined. That is really tempting. And if you have an Amazon store card, you can get 5% back. And if I shoot for Wednesday delivery, I can get 6% back on top of that. So so we're at like 1903.74 minus 107.76, all right? Then times 0.94. So this is my actual cost for that camera if I get 6% back on my Amazon card. I mean, if you want a G9 Mark II, brand new with warranty and all of that stuff, now is the time. Now is the time to get it. Because even used, oh my God, it's like let's go to my watch list over here. These are things I'm watching, but Panasonic, that's G9 2. Brand these are international. Let's find map camera's pretty reliable. So it's gonna take like 2 weeks to get it. And this one's not even this one looks pretty good. What condition are they claiming? Used. This now we're kind of getting into my shop, my gas. Okay, this is the English. So this looks brand new for all intents and purposes. Does it come with the battery and charger? Yeah, comes with the battery and charger. All right, so add the cart, and then 15 millimeter. We'll add that lens. There's one here from 300. No lens hood. All right, let's get this. This is new in box. But let's say we go with this one, $313. So how much is that total? 1625 for a used one versus the 1688 that I just showed you can get from Amazon directly. Because you got to add tax and everything on top of this. And you don't get 6% back if you use your Amazon card. So this is what I'm doing on Tuesdays, right? Is I'm going through and shopping and showing you what I have in my shopping list. I'm adding them to the cart and I'm showing you the deal you can get. So you guys got to come to my shopping stream if you have gas like me, looking for deals. But I'm not always shopping these like $2,000 items, right? I'm usually shopping these $20 items. So if you do have gas, this will temper it a little bit. It does for me. Just buying these little $20 things every now and then. um, because the only camera I bought this year is sorry, I got distracted there. How do I get back to yeah, here. Now I forgot what I was saying. I'm usually shopping like $20 items. Like it used to be $50, now it's 25, right? Or there's a certain coupon code you can use and get 25% off. I'm like looking for those kind of deals where, why not? I buy 90% of the things I buy is because it's on sale, not because I need it. But I try to do it $20 at a time, like death by a thousand cuts, rather than like this rack of cameras I have on my shelf. Yeah, Robbie, this is the way to go, man. If you want that camera, Rob, you'll probably spend more money than any money you make from Shop with Rob. I know. If I buy one $20 item, right, I think I'll probably make $2 or $3 on a Shop with Rob video. I might make like $2 on the video itself, and then I'll make probably another. Typically, you guys buy like 5 or 6 things. That's about what I see typically when I sell on Amazon, and that adds up to a couple $100, give or take, right? I got lucky. Somebody bought a lens, and I made like I think I made $10 or $12 on it, something like that. It was like a $300 or $400 lens, and I made like $10. But yeah, I just do it because it's a lot of fun, just like these streams I do on Sundays, and the live editing that I do. I edit your picture. Most of it I just do for fun, and I make a few bucks on the side. So it's win-win, right? I have some fun. Hopefully, I educate you guys a little bit, or help you out, or we just have fun together. Maybe you're just watching for fun and don't take me very seriously, which I advise. I strongly advise. Don't take me too seriously, okay? Um, that's what the 43 Rumor site is for. They take themselves very, very seriously over there. If you want to get serious. Um, what other lenses would you recommend for an old Olympus EM1 Mark One? It's my first. Okay, so Tate, definitely, definitely always have the kit lens, the 1442 or the 12 to 32 from Panasonic. The 12 to 32 is a little more compact, but the 14 to 42, and whether it's the manual zoom or the easy zoom, those are both great lenses to get you started. Uh, Primes. Okay, another zoom is the 40 to 150 kit lens, f4 to f5.6. You can get that for like $120 used, and $200 brand new, but sometimes it goes on sale for like $100. But even at $200, it's a good deal. So the 40 to 150, f4 to f5.6 version 2, the 14 to 42 kit lens, those two lenses to get started. Now, if you're not a zoom person, you're fine with just working with primes, or you've got those two lenses and you want to start shooting primes. An excellent lens to buy used is the 25 millimeter f1.4 from Panasonic. Amazing, amazing lens. Another great prime is the 45 millimeter f1.8 from Olympus. So if you're going to get primes, I recommend the 25 1.4 and the 45 1.8. Two awesome, awesome lenses for not a lot of money, a couple $100 each. You can get the 25 1.4 in great condition for about $250 and maybe $300 on the high end. Don't pay more than $300 for that lens. $250. The 45 1.8, $200. Don't pay more than that for that lens. I mean, if they've gone up substantially since then, I'm not aware of it, but around $200 for those two primes. If you like to do close-up and macro photography, the cheap way to do it is get extension tubes for the 40 to 150 kit lens I recommended. That'll get you pretty close. That'll get you really close, probably closer than you really need for most. But if you want to get into macro photography seriously, the 60 millimeter f2.8 macro, another great prime. Now, if you want to spend more money, like more than you spent on that camera for a single lens, I would recommend the 75 1.8. That's an awesome, awesome lens, tack sharp. I don't use it much myself because it's a little bit too tight for most things and not tight enough or long enough for a lot of things. But a good zoom lens with good reach is the 75 to 300. No question, hands down. If you want a super telephoto lens, the 75 to 300 is excellent. It can be had brand new for $400 right now on Amazon. So go to my link if you're in the US. But the 75 to 300 is selling brand new for $400 right now. Used around $350. Okay. So 3 zoom lenses: 14 to 42, 40 to 150, 75 to 300, all the kit lens versions. The primes, the 25 1.4, 45 1.8, and the 60 millimeter macro. If you need weather sealing, okay, the 12 to 45 f4, the 40 to 150 f4. Both of those lenses cost more than your camera, but if you bought the camera used, if you bought it brand new, then that's not the case. But those two lenses, and if you need reach with weather sealing, I would say the 100 to 400. If I recall, that is weather sealed, and you can get that for about 1,100 bucks. I think it's on sale now for 1,200 brand new with warranty. Used, you can get them for around 800. So that's your weather sealed lineup. And weather sealed primes, you have to go with the version 2 of the 25 millimeter f1.4 from Panasonic. And it's, yeah, we're lacking on the weather sealed side for cheaper primes. That's the only one I can think of. So that's what I would do. If you need super wide angle, like if you need wider than 14 millimeters, the 9 millimeter uh, from Panasonic, excellent lens, excellent lens, and I believe it's weather sealed. But don't quote me on that one. But that's a great lens, about $400 used. The wide angle lenses that are any good are kind of expensive. If you don't mind manually focusing, uh, there's a lot of wide angle lenses from like TT Artisans that are really good for like 150 bucks. Oh, okay. The forum you mentioned like uses of all kinds of cameras. Great. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I like hanging out in the forum sometimes. I participate a little bit in the MU43 forum. I used to do the photo editing challenges every week. Uh, but since I started doing my own photo editing live stream, I haven't been doing those so much. And occasionally I'll make a comment here and there, but I'm mostly just checking in to see if anybody's been talking about me. You know, if anybody been talking smack about me in the forums, yeah, I'm reading them. Not that I really care, but or giving praise. That's even better. I love when people like quote my video or say, yeah, Rob has a good video on this. Um, you know, then there's one guy that got on my nerves so bad though. It still irks me. I'm better now, but man, that irked me for months. It's just bothering me. Um, John Allen says I bought three full frame cameras this year. The Canon R8, oh, the Z5 and the Sony. Yeah, that's a good selection there. These cameras, I probably wouldn't consider the Z5 for myself. The R8, definitely, definitely. Let me tell you something. The R8 almost converted me to Canon. Not because of the image quality or any of that stuff, because it's fine, right? The image quality is fine. Uh, it was just the handling, the grip on that camera was so good. When I put that hand in my camera, it like just fit like a glove, and I was like, I just fell in love with that. And when I'm shopping my other cameras, I still look at that one time to time, and I ask myself, am I going to like this other camera better than the R8? The answer is usually no. But I can't buy the R8 because then I got to buy all the lenses for it. And I know that on the Canon side, all the good lenses are super expensive. Yeah, 28 2.8, the 50 1.8, the 35. It's a little expensive, but these are nice compact pancake type lenses that are pretty good. The 24 to 105 kit version, like it's an f4 to 7.1, very, very good lens for like 400 bucks. So I'm thinking Canon R8 with the 24 to 105, very compact kit for not a lot of money. I think used I can get all in for about 1,200 bucks, maybe 13 for that setup. And I'll have an awesome full frame 24 to 105 focal length, right? That could be a great everyday camera that feels good in the hand. It's tempting. It's very tempting. But then I go back. to my shelf here and I look, I'm like, I got an XH2. I got a Sony A7R5. I got a Nikon DF back there and numerous other cameras. I got to take one of those out before I buy another camera. Before I buy an R8, I need to take out every camera at least once. And then I'll think about getting it. The only exception to this rule uh, is the Panasonic S1R. I'm actively shopping the S1R for a good deal, and I'm actively shopping. Well, I finished. I was actively shopping the LX100 Mark II because I got to borrow one for a couple of months, and I just had to have one for myself, and I got one. But the R8 is kind of one of those cameras I'd like to have, but it's not like this LX100 or the S1R, which I'm actively shopping and want bad. I just want them so bad. The LX100 for a lot of reasons. The S1R and the L-mount glass is just second to none in my opinion for the money. The Z5, the problem with the Z5 I have is I want to get the Z8. If I get a Nikon, it's going to be the Z8. I just can't bring myself to get a Z5 when they have a Z8. Now I know on the Canon side they have like the R5, the R6 Mark II, but the R5 the R6 Mark II, I don't see the point. You can get an R8, for pretty much the same camera. But the R5 for problem is those things are still selling for like almost 3,000. Even used, they're selling for 2,600 bucks. For that kind of money, I can get an S1R with some awesome primes and have money left over, you know? And I'd much rather have an S1R than an R5. The gas is real. That Sony A7C just doesn't appeal to me. Uh, for whatever reason, it's a fine camera, but I don't know. I don't know why I keep buying Sonys. Well, I've only bought two. The Sony NEX, which I bought, was my very first interchangeable lens camera, and this Sony A7R5. I figured it was time to upgrade the NEX, so I got the A7R5. Plus, I had gas, and I got a good deal on it. You can buy the Canon RF 24-105, then you don't need any other lenses in that range. Yeah, but I don't want to carry that big heavy ass lens, and I don't need 2.8 or weather sealing. So the regular 24-105 is fine. Then I probably wouldn't need to buy any primes. But if I was doing actually paid work, I would definitely get the 24-105 2.8, and that'll do everything. You're right. I wouldn't need any primes at all. Uh, but for an everyday kind of like 5 or 6 camera down the line, I would rather have the kit 24-105 with their nifty 51.8, maybe their 35 and their 28. I would just have a couple of pancake primes and a kit lens zoom on the R8. And for 2,000 bucks, you got really a fully fledged system that can do everything that the enthusiast or hobbyist would want to do. Um, the 24-105 2.8, I think that's reserved for pro level work, in my opinion. My first, the K10D, I shelved it for newer gear, took it out and realized how I missed it, enjoyed using it. And I think that's the one I have, is the K10. Let me look. Um, what the hell have I been on? Anyway, it's way in the back. This is my E500. This is an awesome camera. Where's my Pentax? It was right here. Oh, it's on this shelf. Hold on. Yeah, there you are. Come to baby. Or come to papa, whatever that phrase is. Let's see what this is. Yeah, K10D. What a lovely camera, huh? Let's switch the EM10. And I got the kit lens on it, the 18 to 56. This really does take lovely images. It has the I think it's the 10 megapixel CCD sensor. It has image stabilization built in. This is the I don't know. I don't know much about Pentax, but this is their DA DA kit lens. Supposed to be a good one as far as kit lenses go. And let's see if it powers on. Oh, man, this thing has been in the box for like probably the last 3 or 4 years. When I bought that box a few years ago, I put this in there and it's never come out. Nice. Why am I at F8? Can't even remember how to change the aperture on it. Oh, well, there we go. And then this takes the SD cards too, if I recall. There's it's a bitch to open. This doesn't just pop, right? I have to twist something to get into it. I don't even remember how to open the SD card slot. Jeez, it's been a long time. But anyhow, you can tell me. Oh, no. How does this open? Do you push it or pull it? I can't get the frickin' SD card. Oh, there it is. Jeez. I remember now. Yeah, you do have to twist this thing to open this. And then I can put any old SD card. This is a four gigabyte SD card. This will be fine. There we go. Nice. Very nice. Maybe I'll take this out today. I can't believe the battery's still good in it. It's still fully charged after I don't know how many years. Must be an OEM battery. Yeah, this is an original battery. So but it's a beast. What does this weigh? Let's see. With the lens. Wow, like 2.5 pounds, which is a little over a kilo. How about the camera body by itself? The S1R body only is like a kilo, but this one is 800 grams, 812 grams of the battery and card in it. So this must be about 200. But top plate LCD, yeah, front and rear dials. Also has a D-pad back here. It's a great camera, and it feels good in the hand too. Not quite as good as my Olympus cameras, like my OM1, for example, but it feels really good in the hand. Okay. Uh, yeah, it's not a slide. There's a little thing here you got to twist. to open the memory card, then it pops open just like that. And it's got some weather sealing, weather resistance to some extent, right? I was, I was looking for some dry cabinets. I was looking for some dry cabinets, and I couldn't find any deals. This was last week too, but I'll keep an eye out. I do look for dry cabinets when I'm shopping. I just haven't found any good deals. The best time to get the dry cabinet is on Adorama, not Adorama, I'm sorry, B&H, when they have their it's usually in Black Friday and Christmas and January when they sell everything. Like from November to January, you'll find like the Rugard dry boxes for like half price. And that's how I got mine. I paid like $125 for mine. I think it's like $300 now, but I do keep an eye out. Marco says the Z8 and R5 too would both make me consider switching. Yeah, until I see how big and expensive the faster long lenses are. It's like carrying around a yeah. There's a guy on our photo club. He loves his Z8, and he bought the big one of the big lenses. I forget which one it was, but it was a honking lens, right? He loves it. He loves it, and I don't blame him, man. I love it too, but I just financially, I could not afford to do that. Oops, sorry, Marco. So that was from this side tomorrow. This side towards screen. Oh, that's funny. I didn't even read your net screen name. That's cool. Uh, X Meta says Pentax K10D is really history. It does not even have proper lens AF calibration for lenses. Only in service menu. The K20D was much better, but I would buy only K3 and more recent today. Yeah, the K33 monochrome is really attractive, but I'd probably still get the regular K33. That looks like an excellent camera. It's just still a little bit too pricey right now. I can wait. I can wait on that because then you have to buy all the lenses, right? That's the same problem I'm having with the R8. If I had the lenses already, I'd have that R8, but I don't have any Canon lenses. I got out of Canon, I think a year or 2 years ago, completely. I have nothing. I'm lying. I have a Canon. I have Canon lenses, the EF mount. I have like two or three lenses laying around, but that's it. And Tate Randy, oh, you have the K10D too, also. Yeah. And I'm just checking the chat here. Linus, I have no idea to get it without breaking the mechanism. Maybe it's already broken as not AV swelling. I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about the battery compartment, not sure what I missed your comment. If you're talking about the battery swelling, I cannot find your comment. Hold on, Linda. It looks like Marco may have already helped you, but just received the G85 from MPB, which will be main camera if we get along. Haven't been able to try it out yet. Yeah, I was shopping. The G95 is on sale right now for $799 with the 12 to 60 lens combined, and it's slightly better than the G85, right? I think it's a 20 megapixel sensor. A couple other things, minor things, but Uh, it's newer, so it has less age on it, right? With that, with the 12 to 60 would be an amazing combination. That would be a great everyday camera too, to be fair. But the G85 is just as good, I think, in every respect. So if you can get it for like half the price of a G95, it's definitely worth it. And Robin says there's some cheaper non-pro Olympus weather sealed lenses to go with M43. Yes. I think like the 14 to 150 kit lens is weather sealed. I just can't think of any more. Um, I don't know why, because it's never been on my radar if a lens is weather sealed or not. Because I don't go out when it rains. Oh, you bought it for $200. Nice. Yeah, that's a killer deal. I was looking at a silver one myself. I like the original EM1 Mark I silver because the buttons and dials on top are silver also. Unlike on the EM1 Mark II, they have like black buttons and dials on top. And it just looks weird to me. I'd rather have the all silver on top. Okay. Yeah, I definitely have a gas problem. It's terrible, but it's fun. It's fun. I mean, Marco and a lot of others put it this way, you only live once. If it gives you a little bit of happiness, just get it. I know that doesn't help. That's just enabling a lot of you that have gas like me, but I don't know. I just started a group, Gas Anonymous, but we wouldn't be helping each other. We'd be enabling each other. Just finding deals, and they got another name for groups like that, where you get together and just gas club. We'll call it the gas club. That's part of the K-mount system, the vast vintage lenses. I use them all the time. Yeah, that's true. Lot of tremendous lenses. I'm gonna go to David Tellett to for his advice on some lenses, and plus I can always try some out that he has. You can make a dry box using an old cabinet incandescent light bulb. Really? The heat from the bulb drops the relative humidity. I mean, I think you would probably know better than me, but I'm just thinking heat generally allows air to hold more humidity, right? So the relative, because yeah, I don't know. I'm sure the science on that is right. I just like I believe you 100%, but it's not clicking up here how that's working. Because somebody can say something that is an absolute fact, right? But if it doesn't make sense to me, I gotta like figure out why is that true? Like why is the sky blue? Right? Because if somebody told me the sky is blue, I would believe them because I've seen it myself, right? But I'm curious, why is the sky blue? I look it up like every other year. Why is the sky blue? Because I can't remember. Why is the sky blue? Just don't get it. So the heat from the lamp, I think it would use more electricity though, right? Um, but you would only need like a 10 or 15 watt incandescent bulb to generate enough heat. That would make sense, right? And then you got a lighted cabinet on top of that. Oh my goodness, thank you, Ricard. I really appreciate that. Man, that's awesome. I love these little super chat things. Thank you so much. Any support I get is so appreciated. Because as you know, the videos and even the affiliate sales and all that, they're just pennies. They're pennies. A real super chat, even better, because what's their name? YouTube takes like 30-40% of that off the top. It's just buying a coffee and the links or making a donation. Um, David was telling me one guy paid him like 150 bucks plus the fees that would it cost for him to get that $150 because he was charging 150 bucks for a workshop, and the guy sent him like $157 because he knows he pays an extra 3% in fees or something. Anyway, thank you, Ricard. I appreciate it. New cameras make me get out of the house and prevent me from becoming brain dead. I know. I've been brain dead all year, really. I've just been watching like Netflix, and now I bought 5 more movies the other day from Goodwill. I love Goodwill. I bought like 5 movies. They were like a buck 29, but then they were having like 75% off the purple color ones. And then if you're 55 and older, you get another 25% off. So I paid like next to nothing for 5 movies. And I got a new shirt and pair of pants, all in for like $15, taxes plus my roundup, the pennies to a full dollar. I always like to give a little back when I buy something, but I got the good, bad, and ugly. Anyway, I shouldn't talk. This has got nothing to do with photography. Counter blue because year after year we have to wonder why. I know, right? And my gas slowed when I opened up the box and found I had a camera I never used. Then I had to realize, oh, oh my god, that would be crazy, man. If I'm like cleaning my office here and I find a camera that I never used and bought, I could probably do that right now. But but seriously, like if I bought a brand new camera and never took it out to use, I'm trying to think if something's happened because that feels really familiar. But it wasn't with a camera; it was with something else. I was looking for something else and I found this other thing. And I'm like, oh man, I'm glad I didn't buy one because I already have it right here. What the heck was it? It was something like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Wildlife photographer Moose Peterson suggests when coming in from the cold to cover your equipment with a clean white towel. The moisture goes in the towel. Oh, that's interesting. See, there's no substitute for real experience in the field, right? You get all these good tips. And Eric is here. Hey, Eric. Eric's another tremendous supporter of the channel through donations. I really appreciate it. You ever find any good lenses at Goodwill? I always look, never see. No. Goodwill sells all their camera gear on their website. I never found. I found one camera one time years ago over there. It was a little compact Olympus. I should have bought it. It was like $7, but I didn't know if it worked or not. And compact cameras weren't a big deal back then. But if you do Shop Goodwill or whatever that website is, you'll find all their stuff there. And they used to be good deals there, but now it's like they're charging as much as that you would on eBay, and they have a zero return policy at Goodwill. So I don't think the few dollars you might save at Goodwill is worth it anymore, especially now their prices have gone up. And I'm assuming you mean going to the Goodwill store, right, and looking for lens. I've never seen any. But if you're talking about going to their website where they sell online, yeah, I don't find any good deals there. Not anymore. I used to, but not anymore. Thinking of getting the EM10 Mark II or better the EM5 Mark III. Well, the EM5 Mark III is superior in every single way. I would get the EM5 Mark III. Um, because it's what, about $200 more? You can get them for like 600 bucks. Uh, yeah, no question. EM5 Mark III. Yeah, I don't want to carry that heavy ass lens. That's right. Is that something I said? That sounds like something I would say. Think about how dry the air in your house is. Oh, some explanation here. Think about how dry the air in your house gets during the winter. Yes, it's because the humidity is because it's colder, it holds less air. The outside cold air relative humidity might be 60%, but when you bring it in the house, ah, it drops to the teens. You're right. You are absolutely right. Relative humidity is relative to the temperature. Thank you for explaining that. That makes perfect sense. So putting a light bulb in and making the cabinet inside warmer is just like your house is warmer than the outside air. So the relative humidity is lower. I guess the only thing you have to be careful with is if you take the lens out of your dry box using a that has hot air in it and your house is relatively cold, are you going to get no, you wouldn't get condensation. That's the opposite, right? It's like if you take something out of the refrigerator and bring it into the warm air, then you get condensation because the lens is colder. So yeah, that sounds like a great idea. A light bulb inside of a but I would imagine how many watts do you use? Like 10 watt, 15 watt, 20 watt? If you can get them that low, you can I'm sure you can get a 25 watt, which is probably the lowest. And that's not bad. Went to my nearby city to photo, had 4 camera lens, big bag, and ended up using a small point and shoot. Never going to do that again. Keep it simple. I know, right? That's why I like the LX100. It's like has everything. So, all right, I think I'll call it here. I'm getting hungry. Uh, it's like lunchtime, and it's been a couple hours. So, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, at least the first part. When I was actually talking about something. Um, and before we got into my gas issues. But you guys are great. I always have a lot of fun talking to you. Thanks for being here today, and I will be back on Tuesday for an actual shopping live stream, and then Friday I do my photo editing streams, and then it's Sunday again, and life goes on from there, right? So you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again soon.